Hello. We are in Chapter 7, Section 7.1, Composing Functions. In this video, we're going to go over problem number 3, in which we are given two functions, but not through the formulas defining them, but through graphs. And we are to evaluate each composition. Well, not all of them are compositions, because the first question is about evaluating just the function f at 2. The second one is actually asking us for what x is f of x equal to 2, and then the rest are compositions using different notation. So let's start with that part A, where we are evaluating f of 2. So the graph for f of x is the second one that we have here, and to remind you, all the points on the graph of any function are of the form input, comma, the value of the function at that input. So this question in part A is about that value. That means about the y-coordinate of the point whose x-coordinate is 2. So on the graph of f2 as x is right here. So we just need to figure out what the value of that function is at that point right there. And it appears that the y-coordinate of that point is 5, so that's what f of 2 is. In part B, we're still asked about the function f, but this time we are given the information that f of x is equal to 2, so the value of the function is equal to 2. We are to identify the input or inputs, if any, of course, that yield that function value of 2. So if we are given the y-coordinate of 2 is here, we're pretty much looking at this line and search where it intersects the graph of our function. And it looks like we have 2 points like that, right here and right there. And we just have to identify the x-coordinates, that means the inputs corresponding to that value. So we take it down, one of them is 1, and the other one is 5. So there is actually 2 such x's, 1 and 5. Now, the remaining parts are about evaluating compositions of functions, and we start with g of f of 2. So we first have to figure out what f of 2 is. Now f of 2 has already been found in part A. We know it's 5, so it will be simply g of that 5 in here. So now we have to look at the graph for the function g that we have here on the left and find the y-coordinate of the point whose x-coordinate is 5. So that 5 is here, looks like it's that point, and its y-coordinate is 3. So that's the final answer for part C. In part D, we have to find f of g of 2. So first we need to identify what g of 2 is. So on the graph for g, we look at the input of 2 and where's the point on the graph of the function with that x-coordinate. And it looks like it's that point right there. And identify its y-coordinate, which in this case is 0. So g of 2 is 0, and that will be the input to which we will apply the external function f in here. So now, on the graph of f of x, we have to find the point on the graph whose x-coordinate is 0. X of 0 is right here, and that point on the graph of f of x is right there. And its y-coordinate, which is f of 0, is -3. And that's the answer to part D. In parts E and F, we have a little bit different notation, but it's still about composition of functions. And in part E, we are to first apply this function g, which is closer to that input in notation, to that input of 4. So we'll be starting with g of 4. And then once we figure out what that is, we will externally apply the function f on top of that. So starting with g of 4, on the graph for g of x, we look for the point whose x-coordinate is 4, and that point is right there on the x-axis, and identify its y-coordinate, which of course is 0. So 0 is g of 4, 0 is the input to which we apply the function f. So we jump to the graph of f of x, look at the point on the graph of f of x whose x-coordinate is 0, and the x-coordinate of 0 is here, and identify that point and its y-coordinate, which is -3. Of course, we have computed f of 0 already in part D, so no surprise we get the same thing. Just wanted to make sure that we know what we're doing in each such composition problem. So similarly in part F, where we are to evaluate g of 5, well, we apply the same function twice, but it's kind of interesting because we will be applying it to different inputs in each step of this evaluation. Because we start with g of 5, so that will be our first step. And then once we know what g of 5 is, we will apply the function g again to that number. So starting with g of 5, we look at the graph of g of x and look at the point on the graph whose x-coordinate is 5. X of 5 is here, so that point is right there. And it appears its y-coordinate is 3. So that's what g of 5 is. Now we apply the function g to that number 3. And g of 3 is found by first looking at the point whose x-coordinate is 3 on the graph of the function g. And we identify its y-coordinate, that is -1. And that is the final answer for part F. G of 5, or g composed with g of 5, is -1.